Hey everybody, welcome back. If you are joining us for another live or watching this back later, so I decided that I did not want to leave on a cliffhanger from the last chapter. I was like, what's going to happen to Liz? I had to read chapter 9, and then we didn't really get a proper recap with Jess. So that said, I am doing this again. We are going to continue reading because I can't not know what happens to Liz. I can't wait till Friday. So that's what's happening. Yep, Jess, you told me. You're right. So Jess, I'm going to bring you on if it's okay with you. I'm adding you. Hopefully Jess accepts my request.
I said you're going to get to a point and you're not going to want to put it down.
Yeah, the first few I was like, and now I'm like, what's going to happen to Liz?
You got to set it up. They got to set it up for you, and then you're like, wait till it starts the action stuff. Wait till we get to Pursuit and Turnabout when it's nothing but nonstop action and you don't know what's going to happen. We're going to have a day where we just read because you're not going to want to stop. You want to know what happens to them. It's really action-packed.
We might have to do all day Roswell Live reads and just be on IG Live like all
day. We're like, hold on, we got to restart again. Do the whole book. You know what? I said that if we ever do a Roswell conference, which is like, I want to do one, I want to be in charge of the books, obviously. Because when I was like in college, I did like archaeology conferences every year, and we did presentations. So I want to do that. And I would do a presentation in front of like all kinds of people. Wouldn't that be awesome? That'd be fun. That's my dream.
I'm definitely, if I ever like organize a Roswell fan conference, you're my book person.
We need to like get with the Roswell Festival and like have a booth or something. That would be cool.
Yes.
I know I'm thinking too much. Anyway.
Well, go back to what you were saying before.
Okay, so while we were gone, Michelle was doing some looking for me too, and she was reading some of the reviews on this book that we're reading. And a lot of people said they don't know where this book falls because of the inconsistencies. So I don't know if I'll ever be able to place it. The only thing we can really say is that we know it's in season 2.
Yeah.
But because she's like, they're all lovey-dovey again, and we know that's not really happened because of End of the World. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, I think that the author didn't pay that much attention to that. To write a interesting, it's not fitting in with, the way it should. You know what I mean? Now, that guy, he does that one, and I think he does the next 2. And then we have a whole other authors for the last 4. So you'll notice the difference. Like, some people paid way close attention. Some people didn't. I mean, he did pretty good. He did good.
So there's new authors at the end?
No, not with, like, I'm talking about like Turnabout and the other 4. Those are written by other people.
Oh, got you.
Yeah.
Hold on. I did that when I did the pin comment. It does that.
I know, right? Yeah. So, yeah, they're written by other people. So I think there's 4 different authors involved. So different authors write it different ways, and you can tell. So, yeah. Yeah. I'm going to have to figure out how to hold my phone and a book. This is going to be fun. I had to lock myself in my bedroom because my 3-year-old won't. He'd be in my face, in our faces here. Crazy mother thing. He's still awake, yes. It's 9:30 here, but he's 3, and I want him to sleep longer tomorrow morning.
I don't get it with like little young 2- and 3-year-olds, and they have insane amounts of energy running around all day, and they're still going at 9:30 at night. Like, so they're going for, when does he wake up?
The same time as me. I snuck out I've been working from home since all this started, and I try to be really quiet in the morning. I get up at 5:30 in the morning with my husband. Well, and Yeah. And I am not even leaving. He leaves. Well, and I would help him get him ready and him packed so he would take him to his mom's house to babysit him so we can work. Well, she's on vacation this week. I'm working from home, so he's staying with me. So I tried to be really quiet this morning to not wake him up so that I could just go in the living room, go to my computer and get on and start working because I'm still in training for for the rest of the week. Nope, he's up. He's jumping on his bed. I'm like, man. He's still up now. So I'm just waiting for him to decide that he wants to pass out. So
Oh, Lord bless you. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it with my cats. I can just be like, shoo, like, go away. Mom is busy,
I
but
can't
can't do
shoo
that
them.
kid.
That's why I need
Can't.
Isabel's power. So I can just tap him on the back and be like, it's bedtime. Poof. You know what I mean?
Poof, okay, mommy. Yeah.
I would
Yes.
use it way too much. That would be bad. But yeah, he's my last one. So I got to love it, you know. I got to enjoy it while he's little before he goes to school and all that stuff. So yeah. Jump into 9. I know you want to. I'm going to like
Fine.
give you weird eyes over my book like I did last time. This is what I did.
Ah. Yeah, I've been trying to do that when my wife Michelle talks so people know we're reading a book and we're not just like, you know, doing that. Oh, exactly.
Bad.
I got my water, so I've been drinking up. It's like a 20-minute chapter, guys. It's like 20 plus pages. It's long, so I might have
This
to
one's a long one?
take a breath in between. Okay.
Do you want
All
Michelle
right,
back
guys.
so she can help you read it?
No.
Okay.
You're sticking around. You're sticking
All
around the
right.
whole
Well,
time.
I don't know how I'm gonna end up looking at. I don't know. Let's see. I'm in my bedroom. Okay. I'm on my bed.
That's
I'm locked in here, so I'm in my pajamas. It's late here. I'm sorry. It's my late night reading time.
you know what? There's a lot of Roswell mamas out there, and they got to do the same thing, and they got to lock themselves in their own bedroom
Oh,
away from their kids. So
I
it's
can't see you.
understandable.
It's really dark.
To see a lady with a book in front of her face down
How
there,
dark
like,
is it?
okay.
All right, go.
All right. I'll read chapter 9. A coyote howled mournfully in the night as Max and Michael crouched behind some outcropping rocks atop a ridge overlooking the hillside entrance to the gruesomely named Slaughter Canyon Cave. They had arrived at the canyon well before midnight so they could take up a concealed position before either Morton or Lieutenant Ramirez showed up to conduct their mysterious business. Although the cave itself had closed at sunset, all-night camping was permitted on the park's 30-something miles of backcountry trails, allowing the two teenagers to reach this location without having to sneak past any guards or barriers like they often had to do on covert missions like this. So far, so good, Max thought. He hated having to leave Liz's side again, especially after her total meltdown at the bat flight, but there was no way around it. He couldn't trust this job to anyone else, not even Michael. If anyone's going to uncover Morton's dirty dealings, it's going to be me, he thought silently. I owe it to Liz and myself. Fortunately, Liz had calmed down some after they'd gotten her away from the burgeoning bats and crowds. In theory, she was resting now in a room at the Days Inn, where Maria, Alex, and Isabel could take care of her. It had torn his heart out to see Liz so scared and miserable, which only increased his resolve to take care of Joe Morton, one way or another. With luck, Liz would feel better and more like her old self again once she knew that the loathsome gunman could no longer threaten her. A cold fury possessed him, spreading from his gut out to his fingertips, which tinged with pent-up psychic energy. He clenched his fist, feeling the red-hot power building within him, waiting to burst free. The alien energies at his command were fully capable of killing a man, Max knew. But was he? He tried to imagine what it would be like, setting Morton's heart on fire with the power of his mind, melting the man's ribcage until it resembled one of the shapeless calcite formations found in the caverns below. The image both horrified and intrigued him. Could I actually kill Morton in cold blood? He asked himself, uncertain of the answer. A vivid mental picture of Liz dying on the floor of the crash down, blood seeping from her wounded belly, her beautiful brown eyes dimming, sprang into his mind, as real as life. He had never felt so scared, so desperate. Maria screaming in the background, Michael trying to hold him back, Liz's smooth, soft skin growing cold and still. No, please no. You can't die, Liz. You can't. Max shook his head violently, trying to dislodge his awful memories from his thoughts. He shuddered, his body responding irrationally to events that had taken place nearly 2 years ago. The remote canyon, lit by a thin crescent moon, could not have been more different than the crash now with its kitschy decor. Yet he suddenly felt as though part of him, the most important part, was still kneeling on the diner floor, next to Liz's bleeding body. How could anyone do this to her? To Liz, of all people. One very special person like Liz, so beautiful and so bright and so caring, was worth more than 100 worthless scumbags like Joe Morton. How dare he come so close to extinguishing Liz's life forever? Max's alien blood boiled in his veins, and he knew that at that moment at least, he was more than capable of obliterating Joe Morton for good. You okay, Kimosabe? Michael asked. Kimosabe. Michael asked. Like his friend, the alien youth squatted in the dirt beneath the craggy ridge, and it had discarded his blonde disguise in favor of his usual mop of messy brown hair. High-powered binoculars purchased at one of the shops in White City rested on his lap next to a medium-sized bottle of Tabasco sauce. I'm fine, Max asserted. I just want to get this over with and get back to Liz. He peeked at the indigo display on his watch. It was already 11:35 p.m. Not much longer, he promised Michael. So why do you think this place is called Slaughter Canyon anyway? Michael asked casually. He took a sip of the bright red Tabasco sauce. Are we talking about some sort of ghastly Indian massacre here or what? I have no idea, Max stated, grimacing slightly. His legs were growing numb from holding the same position, so he shifted his weight slightly. And I don't particularly care. He glanced over at his friend to see how he was holding up. What he saw sent a chill through his blood. Michael, he whispered urgently, don't move. Max froze as well, taking care not to make any sudden movements. Whatever you do, don't move. There in the moonlight, coiled in the shadow of a flowering cactus plant, its burnished copper scales glittering, a full rattlesnake lifted its serpentine head, only inches away from Michael's ankle. Diamond-shaped markings along its coils advertised its deadly nature and species, while a forked tongue flicked between its predatory jaws. At first, Michael was mystified by Max's whispered warning. What? He mouthed silently, taking pains to obey Max's instructions, even though he didn't yet comprehend the why of them. Then the rattler shook his tail at the maraca, filling the still night air with a dry staccato warning. Understanding and fear dawned in Michael's eyes. Oh, crap, he whispered. Would rattlesnake venom affect Michael's alien biology? Max didn't want to find out. Holding his breath, he watched the snake with vigilant eyes, hoping that the poisonous reptile would slither away harmlessly. Just go about your business, Snake, he pleaded silently, regretting that unlike some movie aliens, talking to animals was not among his inhuman abilities. Don't mind us. We won't give you any trouble. If the Diamondback could read his mind, which was highly unlikely, then it definitely wasn't listening to him. The dry rattle increased in volume and tempo as the serpent appeared to grow more and more agitated by the humanoid intruders trespassing on its domain. The snake hissed again, more vehemently, and Max caught a glimpse of curved yellow fangs dripping with venom. Its coils rushed atop the dirt and gravel, and the rattler's head reared up, poised to strike at Michael's ankle. No, Max declared, unleashing the destructive energy he had been saving for Morton. His outstretched fingers glowed with an unearthly radiance, and a bolt of incandescent heat and fury flashed between Max and the attacking serpent. The hiss of burning meat replaced the Diamondback's own sibilant vocalizations, and the angry rattling ceased abruptly. Startled by the strobe-like flash, Michael yelped and scrambled away from the zapped rattler on his hands and knees, not looking back until he had put many yards between himself and his former location. he exclaimed, forcefully expelling all the air from his lungs. His chest rose and fell irregularly as he looked back in surprise at what was left of the snake. Thin, white tendrils of smoke rose from a blackened lump of charred bones and skin. The volcanic heat of Max's psychic blast had even scorched the earth around the smoking snake skeleton, leaving a crust of gray-black ash atop the soil. Climbing onto his feet, Michael nudged the cremated remains with the toe of his sneaker. Nothing rattled since the fiery mental thunderbolt had fused the rattler's natural noisemaker into a single inert mass of smoldering cartilage. Michael pushed the barbecued snake parts farther aside, revealing a patch of once gritty sand that had been transformed by the extreme heat into a thin sheet of cracked and discolored glass, like the epicenter of a miniature atomic explosion. The glazed sand reflected silvery fragments of the moonlit sky overhead. Yo, Max, Michael said, shaking his head in disbelief. You have really got to work on your control. Rescuing his bottle of Tabasco sauce from the ground where it had fallen, he took a deep gulp from the bottle, then wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Not that I'm not grateful for the timely save, mind you, but if you don't watch out, you really are going to kill somebody one day. Max contemplated the smoking debris with a sense of grim satisfaction. It occurred to him, belatedly, that he hadn't needed to insert the rattler, that he could have just predicted a force field instead. But he had few regrets at the way the scene had played out. One snake down, he thought, one more to go. Boy, what is it about us and creatures like that? Boy, what is it about us and creatures that like to shed their skin? Michael asked rhetorically, continuing to inspect leftover pieces of rattlesnake. Wired by his near-rushed terminal snake bite, he stretched his limbs and gazed past Max's brooding form out over the canyon. His eyes widened suddenly, and he dropped to the ground, throwing up a cloud of dust and sand. Max started to sneeze, but Michael hastily placed a finger beneath his friend's nose, then raised another finger over his own lips, signaling him to silence. Shh, he hushed Max, tilting his head towards the canyon below. Look. Crouching lower onto his hands and knees, Max cautiously lifted his head until he could just peer over the tops of the jutting rocks. He sucked air through his clenched teeth as he spotted what Michael had only seen seconds before. While they'd both been distracted, understandably, by the overly territorial rattler, Joe Morton had come trudging up the steep desert trail to the entrance of Slaughter Canyon Cave. Brandishing a flashlight in one hand, a pistol in the other, and carrying a canvas backpack upon his beefy shoulders, Morton was breathing heavily by the time he reached the top of the trail. Just outside the shadowy gap in the hillside. Posted signs warned hikers not to explore the hazardous cavern except in the company of an experienced guide. But the burly gunman did not look like he was planning any unauthorized spelunking. Lost my place. So arriving at the end of the trail, he slipped the backpack off his shoulders, planted his hefty butt on a conveniently flat-topped boulder, and settled down to wait for Lieutenant Ramirez. The night was quiet enough that Max could hear him muttering grumpily about the steepness of the climb, the lieutenant's lack of punctuality, and the general crappiness of life in general. He spit a mouthful of chewing tobacco at the base of a sign listing general park regulations. Lousy, stinking nature, he groused. Who needs all this nothing anyway? Ought to build a casino here or something. Squatting behind the craggy ridge, Michael stared at Morton in disgust. A real class act, this guy, he whispered softly to Max, his voice filled with contempt. Reminds me of my absent and unlamented foster dad, Hank. Given that Michael's former legal guardian, now happily missing for many months, had been an abusive, bad-tempered drunk, Max knew just what Michael meant. He could readily imagine an irate Hank shooting up the crash down the way Morton had, the way Morton had nearly taken away Liz away from him forever. Blood soaking through her goofy, adorable space waitress uniform, her brown eyes glazing over, staring blankly into the void. The very sight of Morton brought Max's simmering rage to a frothing boil once more, throwing him back mentally to all the anger and fear of that terrible day at the diner. Adrenaline flooded his system, and every muscle in his body felt primed to explode into action. Veins throbbed at his temples, the rapid rhythmic pulse making him slightly queasy. He felt an overpowering compulsion to smash Morton's pig-like face in, to wipe him off the face of the earth and any other planet he could think of. Without thinking, he started to rise up from beneath the ridge, his clenched fist emitting an eerie silver glow. Max, what are you doing? Michael frantically grabbed onto Max's arm, tugging him back down behind the rough concealment of the rocky ridge. Have you lost your mind? Michael's blurted words hit Max like a splash of cold water. What was he doing? Morton hadn't even met up with the lieutenant yet, let alone revealed the secret of his nefarious scheming, yet he had almost given away his and Michael's position in a moment of unthinking hatred. Max blinked in confusion, staring in shock and disbelief at his own glowing fingers. Resting his back against the stone outcropping, he struggled to regain command of his temper and higher faculties. He panted raggedly, hyperventilating, and Michael worriedly clasped a hand over Max's mouth, forcing him to breathe through his nose. Max felt lightheaded, out of control, and for the first time since Liz spotted Morton in the caverns, he wondered if Michael had been right all along, if there really was something wrong with him. Gradually, through sheer willpower, Max forced himself to come to his senses. His breathing slowed, and the pounding in his veins and temples diminished to a dull throb. He held his hand up before his eyes and watched as the silver glow slowly dimmed until it disappeared entirely. Michael sighed in relief as the electric light faded, and he looked quizzically into Max's eyes. Reassured by the restored sanity he found there, he withdrew the hand covering Max's mouth. Sorry about that, pal, he apologized, but you looked like you were losing it. I was, Max confessed. Thanks. Michael smirked and shrugged his shoulders. No problem, you crazy kid. I dimly recall you've done the same for me. Many, many times, Max reminded his impetuous paw brother. Michael had been a loose cannon for as long as he could remember. Hey, who's counting? Michael said with a grin. Confident that Max wasn't going to go berserk in the next few minutes, he raised his head up to check on events over by the cave entrance. Heads up, he alerted Max in a low voice. Looks like it's showtime. Although anxious to see what was happening in the canyon, Max took a couple of deep breaths first. His temporary mania appalled and disturbed him, and he didn't want to risk losing control again at the sight of Morton. Keep cool, he counseled himself, trying to remain focused on tonight's primary objective. This is a fact-finding mission, not a rumble or assassination attempt. I need to stay cool, keep quiet, and find out what Morton's up to. He could always stage a showdown with Morton later, after they all had a better idea of what was at stake. Stealthily turning around behind the ridge, he crouched down and peered over the piled rocks. His eyes widened as he saw that Morton was no longer alone. Another man was coming up the trail of Slaughter Canyon Cave, carrying a black Hitachi case in one hand. Although the newcomer was clad in strictly civilian garb, a leather flight jacket and jeans, Max guessed from Alex and Isabel's descriptions that this was the mysterious Lieutenant Ramirez. Guess that lab guy from the Las Cruces isn't showing up for this meeting, he inferred, still wondering how particle physicists fit into this design puzzle. Morton did not waste time with pleasantries or small talk. Is that it? He demanded, spotlighting the lieutenant with the beam of his flashlight. He clumsily lurched his heavy body off the boulder he'd been using as a seat, then pointed at Ramirez's briefcase with the muzzle of his pistol. The brain sound of his voice sent a fresh eruption of white-hot wrath through Max's body, but he bit down hard on his lip and merely kept watching. So you got it? Morton challenged Ramirez. Max wished he knew what it was. To hell with pronouns, he thought furiously. Tell us what's in this stupid briefcase. He thought fiercely. Okay. Snatching the binoculars off the ground, where they had fallen during the altercation with the rattlesnake, he pressed the view pieces against his eyes and tried to get a closer look at both Ramirez and his coveted case. It took him a few seconds to get either of the clandestine pair in the binocular sights, during which time his eyes retreated to highly magnified views of cacti, yucca, and gravel, until all of a sudden, he abruptly found himself staring into Morton's scowling, ill-shaven face and bloodshot eyes. The gunman's hated and hateful visage gave Max a momentary start, but then, using Morton as a guidepost, he managed to shift the view to the other participant in this midnight conference. Ramirez looked just as clean-cut and well-groomed as he'd been described. He also looked extremely unhappy and distraught. Sweat beaded on his bronzed forehead, and his stray muscles twitched spasmodically beneath his cheek. Max could practically hear the man's teeth grinding together convulsively as the lieutenant climbed the last few yards to the cave's entrance. I'd be worried too, Max thought, if I had to deal with Morton, especially in a lonely canyon late at night. No wonder Ramirez looked so troubled. Well, Morton repeated, shining his flashlight directly into the lieutenant's face. He glared at the other man irritably. Have you got the merchandise? Yes, damn it, Ramirez said, squinting through the glare of the harsh white beam. He held up his hand to shield his eyes. I got it all right, although I wish to heaven I didn't. Sounds like the lieutenant is having second thoughts, Max guessed. He lowered the binoculars so as to examine Ramirez's attache case more closely. Unfortunately, the matte black finish of the case provided absolutely no clue as to its contents. Quit whining, Morton barked to the lieutenant, unless your superiors at White Sands find out what you've been up to. He sneered sadistically, clearly enjoying his hold over the officer, and spat another mouthful of tobacco juice onto the trail. You'd be looking at court-martial for sure, I figure, so don't go having any last-minute changes of heart now. You're way too deep, flyboy. Sure, Max thought restlessly, but too deep into what? Temporarily taking off the binoculars, he exchanged a frustrated look with Michael, who looked equally into the dark. All they could tell for sure was that Morton was somehow blackmailing the lieutenant. Fine, okay, Ramirez conceded. He ran an agitated hand through his bristling military crew cut and looked away from Morton's blinding spotlight. Just turn off that damn light. Having established who had the upper hand, Morton clicked off his flashlight. The crescent moon shining overhead proved sufficient illumination to complete the shadowy transaction. He placed the inactive flashlight on the flat-top boulder and nodded towards the black leather case in the lieutenant's grip. Hand it over, he ordered. The key, too. His cheek muscles twitching like a Mexican jumping bean. Ramirez surrendered both the briefcase and a small metal key to Morton, who plopped the case down on top of the boulder and unlocked the latch. Max peered intently through the binoculars, fiddling compulsively with the focus and his determination to get a glimpse of what was lurking inside the case. To his frustration, however, Morton's expansive back blocked his view completely. He looked over at Michael, offering him the binoculars, just in case Michael had a better view, but the other teenager shook his head glumly. Damn, Max thought. If only he and Michael had set up shop on the opposite side of the canyon. You see, Ramirez said bitterly. His arms clung at his sides, his fingers uselessly clutching the empty air, as though wishing that the precious briefcase was still in his possession. He swallowed it hard, forced to digest the sour taste of treason. Where's my money? He demanded. Satisfied with what he saw, Morton slammed down the lid of the attached case and locked it shut, then stowed the key in the front pocket of his plaid flannel shirt. Oh, that's right, your money, he said snidely. His Smith & Wesson remained pointed at the lieutenant. You're not so proud and guilt-stricken, I see, that you don't want to get paid for delivering the goods and committing a major breach of national security. Ramirez's cheek jumped as though an alien was about to burst from his skin. Just give me the cash, Morton, and get out of here. His eyes hungrily focused on the canvas, his backpack resting on the ground near Morton's face. I never want to lay eyes on your ugly face again. But Morton was in no hurry to finish their business. About that money, Lieutenant, he taunted Ramirez maliciously. You only get half now, the other half after I have this merchandise. He patted the top of the closed briefcase, authenticated by an expert. Aha, Max thought, finally guessing how one piece of the puzzle fit into the whole. That must be what the science guy back at the hotel is for, to verify that the merchandise, whatever it is the real deal. Now all he needed was figure out what kind of classified contraband needed an expert physicist to give it a seal of approval. So much for the idea that this is just some sort of mundane drug deal. What? Ramirez shouted resentfully. He took an angry step towards Morton, who brandished a semi-automatic menacingly. The infuriated lieutenant backed off, physically, but seemed no less outraged and upset. This wasn't a deal, and you know it. Sorry, Morton said, with a blatant lack of sincerity. His cocky attitude implied that he found the pilot's predicament amusing. There's no chance you're getting the rest of the money, not until I'm 100% certain that you're not pulling a fast one on me. His expression darkened, and menace crept into his voice as he considered the prospect of deceit. And you'd better hope for your sake that you've handed over the genuine article. Nobody cheats Joe Morton, at least not more than once. Ramirez shook with barely contained fury. He pointed fiercely at the case he had so unhappily relinquished to Morton. But you saw it yourself, right there in that briefcase. That's no fake, it's just what I promised. His voice sounded hoarse and increasingly desperate. You can't do this to me. I came through with my side of the deal. I want my money. Now. Tough luck, flyboy, Morton said, not at all bothered by the lieutenant's indigent protests. Keeping the muzzle of his gun aimed squarely in Ramirez's chest, he took hold of the backpack straps and carelessly lobbed the backpack at the profoundly unhappy test pilot. The bundle landed with a thud at Ramirez's feet. Sure, what's in the case looks kosher to me, but what do I know? I'm no rocket scientist, just a guy who has what it takes to make a buck or two. He reached over and picked up the briefcase by its handle. Once my hand-picked PhD signs off on the merchandise, then you'll get the rest of the cash. Not before. His anguished face slick with sweat, Ramirez snatched the backpack from the rocky trail and fumbled with its flaps in a panicky rush to check its contents. Finally getting the pack open, he balanced the canvas parcel on its knee as he groped inside the pack with his free hand. It's not fair, he muttered silently. I did my part. Using the binoculars, Max zeroed in on the open briefcase just in time to see Ramirez's trembling hands pull out a wad of $100 bills bound together with rubber hands. He rifled the stack of green paper bills with his thumb, making sure there was cash all the way through, then tossed it back in the bag and pulled out another wad. He eyed the bundled hundreds lustfully like an addict hungry for a fix or a skin in need of a fresh husk. It has to be here, he croaked hoarsely. All of it. Don't fool yourself, Ramirez, Morton scolded the other man smugly. You can count it yourself if you like, but I'm telling you, there's exactly half of your payment in that pack. He spat tobacco juice in the perturbed lieutenant's direction. The rest of the cash isn't even here tonight. I've got it stowed away miles from here, where you can't possibly get at it. The Motel 6, I'm guessing, Max thought, across the street from where Liz and the others are staying. Ironically, he knew more of Morton's recent movements than Ramirez did, but not what all this wheeling and dealing was about. We've got to find out what's in that briefcase to realize, but how? Damn you, Morton, Ramirez cursed his backstabbing partner. Finally realizing that he lost this battle, he gave up counting the loot and crossly threw the first few bundles of bills back in the pack. Can't you at least tell me who you're working for then? He pleaded pathetically. I don't know about you, Morton, but I'd sleep better nights knowing that I haven't turned that so-called merchandise over to any terrorists or enemy nations. That this is just industrial espionage and not anything that really damages America's security. A sob caught in his throat. He sounded like a man trapped in his own private hell. If I can't have all the money now, at least give me something for my conscience. Morton shrugged. Not my problem, Ramirez. I don't give a flying saucer how you sleep, and the people I work with pay me good money to keep their names out of it. Like who? Max fretted, without even knowing what Ramirez was so reluctantly selling. He couldn't help worrying about whom Morton was representing in this illicit and savory business. China? Libya? Iraq? The skins? His paranoid suspicions weren't all that bothering him, however. After crouching in the same position for several minutes, his legs were killing him. He felt his arching limbs going numb as the static vigil cramped their circulation. Handing the binoculars to Michael, he tried to quietly shift his weight, but shooting pains made him gasp involuntarily at his first modest attempt at movement. Ouch, that hurts, he thought. Too bad there's no top secret alien trick to waking up the legs after they've fallen asleep. Wincing, he braced himself against the stone outcropping and laboriously attempted to lift first one leg, then another, despite the excruciating sensations that resulted as the blood started rushing into his inert lower limbs. And then it happened. The dusty rock upon which he had placed the bulk of his weight came loose without warning. Max tumbled forward, losing his balance, while the dislodged boulder rolled down the side of the ridge, precipitating a mini avalanche, falling rocks and rubble that noisily descended on the canyon below while throwing up a cloud of dust and sand. Oh, crap, Max thought, throwing himself flat against the ground, then rolling quickly until he was safely behind one of the surviving boulders, only inches from where Michael looked on, aghast. Holding on tightly to the binoculars, Michael gulped and ducked beneath the ledge he had been peering over. Oh, man, we're in trouble now, he predicted. The cacophonous rockfall interrupted the tense, unequal confrontation between Morton and Ramirez. What? Morton shouted fiercely. Who's that? Who's up there? Looking up nervously, Ramirez hastily slung the cash-shell backpack over his shoulders. Maybe it's just some animal, he said hopefully, sounding like he was ready to bolt at any moment. Morton, on the other hand, sounded more offended than anxious. Show yourself, damn it. I'll teach you to spy on me, you sneaky bastards. Face down against the gravel, holding his breath, Max found himself wishing desperately that he possessed Tess's gift for warping human perceptions. If only he could project a realistic illusion of a coyote, or maybe a couple of mule deer, into the minds of the two men below. Alas, he had yet to master that trick. Oh, God, Ramirez moaned, facing imminent exposure and ruin. We've got to get out of here. But Morgan wasn't listening to him. Show yourself, he demanded again. Max heard the heavy man climbing towards the ridge, his feet slipping and sliding into the loose rubble. Give yourself up or I'll blow you to pieces. Wordlessly, Max and Michael looked at each other, both hoping that the other knew what to do next. Max was torn. Part of him wanted to throw Morton's threats back at him, pitting scathing psychic energy against hot lead, but the lifelong imperative to conceal his powers helped him resist that reckless impulse. But what else can I do? He agonized. Keep low and hope Morton doesn't find us? Michael had another crazier idea. Throwing back his head, he cupped his hands around his mouth and let out a feeble imitation of a coyote's howl. Max stared at his friend in disbelief, but Michael merely shrugged in return, his defiant expression plainly asking if Max had any better ideas. The intent clearly was to trick Morton into thinking there was nobody up on the ridge except maybe a harmless coyote or two. It might have worked too if Michael had been able to pull it off convincingly. Unfortunately, to Max's ears, Michael's heartfelt howl sounded just like what it was. A desperate teenager trying unsuccessfully to mimic the real thing. Nice try, Max thought. But geez, Michael, Wile Coyote sounds more believable than that. Morton wasn't fooled for a second. Yeah, right, he laughed nastily. Apparently all Michael had succeeded in doing was insult the hot-tempered gunman's intelligence. Take this, smart guy. Gunshots rocked the night, and bullets slammed into the stony cracks, chipping out bits of stone and dusting the two teenagers' heads with pulverized rock. Instinctively, Max threw up a force field between them and the disintegrated cropping. A concave bolt of shimmering green energy blocked the bullets, while casting an uncanny emerald radiance upon the hillside. Max heard Morton's heavy tread stomping up the ridge toward them. More gunshots sounded, provoking semi-hysterical cries of protest from Ramirez. Are you crazy? The jittery, guilt-stricken lieutenant shouted. Put away that gun. Someone will hear. Max could have told Ramirez from personal experience just how trigger-happy Morton could be once he lost his temper. If the hot-headed crook could draw his pistol in the middle of a crowded diner in broad daylight, what was going to stop him from opening fire alone in the wilderness well after midnight? Not going to give up, Max realized. His brow was furrowed in concentration as he tried to think while simultaneously maintaining the force field. We have to get away. We can't let him see us. Get ready, he warned Michael tersely. He placed his palms against the side of the ridge and closed his eyes. This was going to take careful timing. Get ready, Michael. The lambent glow of cast greenish shadows upon his face, making him look more alien than usual. Ready for what? Hold on, okay, good. We have a page left because I'm on low battery. Okay. This. Flexing his mental muscles, Max converted his defensive shield into a battering ram of pistonic force that smashed into what was left of the outcropping, sending another avalanche of rocks tumbling towards Morton, who fired wildly, the unblocked bullets ricocheting off the hillside behind, one of the stray shots ripping apart a cactus only a few feet away from Max, who grabbed onto Michael's arm and leaped to his feet. Pins and needles stung his stiff legs, but Max ignored the pain in his eagerness to escape from Morton's murderous gunfire. Another ricochet shattered the Tabasco bottle, staining the soil red and filling Max's nostril with this hot, spicy smell. Run, coyote boy, run, he shouted to Michael. Follow me. Running uphill would have slowed them down too much, not to mention presented Morton with a pair of easy targets. So instead, Max took a chance, clearing the ridge and taking off down the hill, passing by Morton, who had thankfully been knocked off his feet by the rock fall Max had just triggered. Half skidding, half sliding, Max reached the floor of the canyon in seconds, with Michael right behind him. To his relief, Ramirez was nowhere to be seen. Max guessed that the gun-shy test pilot had decided to make tracks before any cops or park rangers showed up, drawn by the sound of gunfire. Not a bad idea, Max decided. He sprinted down the trail away from Slaughter Canyon Cave. Mercifully, the crescent moon provided enough illumination to see by, so he didn't need to risk generating any additional light on his own. He kept his gaze glued to the rough trail ahead, watching out for obstructions and pitfalls, even if that meant that he couldn't look back to see if Morton had regained his footing yet. Michael's racing footsteps smacked against the uneven ground behind him, letting Max know that the other team was keeping up with him. Suddenly, gunshots erupted from the top of the trail. Come back here, you sons of bitches! Morton hollered, having obviously recovered from the landslide. Come back here, he yelled irrationally, like anyone was really going to turn around and run back toward the crazed lunatic shooting at them. Who the hell are you, stupid kids? Where did you come from? How much did you see? Not enough, Max thought gloomily, putting on another burst of speed in hopes of evading Warren's blistering fusillade. This entire midnight excursion had turned into a disaster, and they hadn't even learned what was in the blasted Tachi case. Bullets pelted the steep mountain trail, throwing up agitated blooms of sand and dirt. What's the range of one of those pistols anyway? Max worried. The ferocious cascade of bullets nipped at his and Michael's heels, and he realized that he never had learned why this particular corner of the path was known as Slaughter Canyon. He hoped and prayed that the name would not prove prophetic. I'm sorry, Liz. More than anything else, he feared leaving her alone in a world that still held the threat of Joe Morton. I tried to protect you. I should have killed him when I had the chance. And that is the end of chapter 9. Whew.
Now you gotta wait a day to figure out what's next. It's getting even more exciting.
Yeah, that was an action-packed chapter, like 20 pages, and some of those words were like really.
Yeah,
like, they put in really trippy sentences in there for you to
trip up. Yeah,
he
likes crazy words. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He does.
I'm gonna plug in my phone because it's on low.
Oh.
Yeah. So hey to those of you who joined us while I was reading. It's good to see some of you came back. So yeah, I just had to keep reading.
I mean, it's easy to do that. And we haven't even got to the suspenseful part with the dream walk or any of that. That's coming up. So, fun times. Fun times. I know. The only thing that drives me nuts, they're really good at describing. He's really good at describing Max and Isabel and everybody. Very good at doing that.
Well,
but
yeah,
they
the
don't
descriptions are very good and specific. Some of it I feel like I don't need. Like, some of it's a little over the top specific, you know what I mean? Like, okay, do I really need all this detail? Like, I just want to get to the meat and potatoes of this, you know?
Right.
But there's 28 chapters, so we've got 18 left. Starting Friday. We're going to be back 7 p.m. Central for that.
So. And this is one of the thinnest books. Well, Quarantine's the thinnest book. But that one drives me crazy.
That was confusing, right? You said that was confusing.
That drives me nuts because you're going to be like, because it's like towards the end, it's the last one before the graduation books, and you're going to be like, and it throws off, it throws it off, and I don't like that. But we'll get more to that when we get there.
And yes, Allison, we're coming back this Friday, 7 p.m. Central. We're good. I don't know if I can do every Friday, but for this Friday, for sure, I can do it. I can squeeze it in. It just be in one live, though. I'll just have time for 1 hour, so we're just going to have
same here.
We might only be able to squeeze in a couple chapters and then a recap. We'll see. And then Sunday, we're going to do the Zoom, I guess, at 1 p.m. Central if people want to. If people don't, if we can't because of the holiday, that's fine. And then we are doing the rewatch on Sunday night, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern for the Roswell rewatch of River Dog on Sunday. Yes, that is the plan. So no Saturday rewatch because of the July 4th holiday this time, because of us Americans who live in this wonderful country of freedom and celebrating Independence Day. So.
Yeah, and I'm going to be out of town that whole day, so I can. There's no way. My mom has crappy Wi-Fi, so there will be no way I could pick it up. I want to spend some time with my kiddos anyway, so I'll have all day with them. So Sunday is perfect, so I'll be home, and we can do everything then. Yep.
Sounds good. So
I think I love the description of the snake, and they're like, "Why do I always have to fight things that lose their skin?"
Well, and Michael's gulping Tabasco sauce, which is just like, they've never done that, like you said.
That bothers me a lot. I'm like, no.
I was reading it, and I was like, they've never done this.
Right? Right. It's little things. Most of these books you'll find are pretty good. They stay in character. They reference a lot of the stuff in the show. But then there's stupid things like that throw you off. That's the stuff I don't like. Because it bothers me. Like some other people who aren't that, detailed as we are, who watch this thing a million times, would be like, oh, no big deal. I've never seen them gulp it in their life. They don't gulp it. That's not right. No.
Yeah.
But
No.
but this is the only one they gulp it in, I believe. I don't think they gulp it in the other ones. So, yeah, because it's a different author.
That is so
Yeah, and
bizarre.
they mentioned Tess. They talked about her, but he doesn't seem to care at all. You notice that? Yeah, I wish I had her powers. Brush it off, because he's in love. He's still in love with Liz. But then he
Even though
doesn't.
she did everything she could to push him in the other direction towards Tess, he's still in love with Liz.
I'm curious to know when they released that book. I'm gonna have to look it up because I want to know, did it come out after the series?
What,
I have to
Loose
look that
Ends?
up. Because that
You
might
mean
be
Loose
why.
Ends?
Huh?
You mean Loose Ends, the first book?
Yeah. I want to know, did it come out when the series was still out? Like while it was airing or after? Years.
I just looked it up. May 1st, 2001. So is that after the?
So it's after everything was done, right?
I think that would have been after the series finale because the show ended in 2001. I'm gonna look up the series finale date.
I'm just curious. Because if it ran during the show, then it would explain why some of these things are not right. However, if it didn't, then he just wasn't paying attention. I
Yes,
don't know. I'm just
Allison.
curious.
The Zoom is 11 a.m. Central. 11 a.m. Pacific, your time. 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern for Sunday. I always have to remind you, but that's okay. I know the time zone thing can get kind of.
It drives me crazy. I always thought, wait a minute, she's an hour behind me. I should know it by now, but I always forget. Never fails.
Good to remind people. Okay, so graduation episode, May 14th, 2002. So it was during the series. So they released the first book in May of 2001, which was still during season 2. Yeah.
So that might explain it. They didn't want to give too much away because episodes were coming out at the same time.
Yeah. Okay, so this is when it was released. This book, Loose Ends, came out May 1st, 2001, which came out after episode 18 in season 2, and before episode 19. So it came out 6 days before Baby It's You premiere.
That's interesting. Very interesting. Well, yeah.
So before,
I mean,
Max and Tess talk about it. I literally flinched violently and ran away from my TV screen, and my mom had to come after me and go, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And I'm like,
I watched it with my husband, and I was yelling. I was like, "Get off of him, you crazy bitch!" And I was going nuts. My husband's like, "You need to calm down." I'm like, "No, do you see this?" He's like, "I'm watching
no.
TV."
When you're a hardcore Stringer fan, this is like your worst nightmare happening on screen.
Well, I didn't remember half of it. Because I hadn't watched it in such a long time. So when I was rewatching The Worst Nightmare for a second time, and I was like, oh my God. Ugh.
Oh, yeah, it happens. It happens. It must happen at the end of It's Too Late and It's Too Bad, because in the synopsis of Baby It's You, it says, after an intimate night together, Tess tells Max she's pregnant.
Ugh. It still really annoys me that when Future Max comes to her and says that, they were supposed to have sex, poor Liz, something always happens that they don't ever get to do it, right? But it irritates me that she goes, what do you mean? Like, I don't even have protection. And he goes, well, I do. Why in the hell didn't he have it for Tess? Excuse me. You had it for her. You were in love with her. It irritates me. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
guess he didn't keep the condom in his wallet or whatever. I don't know.
guess not.
Crazy, man. That's craziness to me. But this is the thing, too, is the synopsis says literally the night after they're together. So what, like it's a day or two after they sleep together, and immediately she's like, oh, I know I'm pregnant.
Well, so, aliens work different, you know.
Aliens work different, so I guess she knew immediately.
And also, you know what I've been thinking about too, because I have a weird brain. So they have kids, right? They can't go to the hospital because they can't have them have their blood. When you have babies, they take a lot of your blood and they fill you up in all fun places, let me tell you. So how did that work? Because they would have had to have home births with somebody like, or something. They would have doula or whatever that's called or something. But my theory is, my theory is that since there's more aliens in the world that people know about, that there's some aliens that are doctors that we don't know about. There are things that are in professions. I think that's what they did. They got alien doctors to deliver their babies. I mean, think about it. They can't go to the hospital. They can't do those things.
Yeah,
their kid gets born. I think too much.
Or a home birth, or you have to do a home birth.
Home birth, but still, that's. But you know, and as you'll see, gave out spoilers anyway. There are aliens everywhere.
Like half of them.
The
bathtub is very comfortable to, give birth.
That's true. Oh, yeah, I still need drugs. I don't care what you say.
Yeah, I know. I'd be like me, the girls. I'd be like, you better make me numb down there. I don't want to feel nothing.
Well, you'll feel something, but you don't want to feel it all. But I'm just saying, like, it's interesting to me. I know, like, because the movie guy, I can't ever remember his name, the Gaul guy, he goes, well, you know that there's a lot more aliens out there that you guys don't even know are there. You're not the only ones, and you're not from that only planet we know about. And they're hidden all around so when that beaker went off, it not only sent it to their planet, but everywhere, which is why the skins came too. So they don't know. So my theory, they're probably for the rest of their lives going to be fighting bad aliens, period, regardless, which could be another movie, by the way. But, it could. And there's that thing that Michael steals from the ship that when Tess comes back, that comes back into play too. There's all these little things that are there for a reason that you'll see. And Turnabout does a great it's great about bringing all that together, because that's when you realize, oh, there's more people, there's more aliens, there's more, I'm just.
Yes, Jody Lynn just missed our chapter 9. That's okay. You can watch it back. I'll always post it.
Yep, it's always posted.
Yeah, we decided to go live again because I had to read chapter 9 and find out if Liz was okay, because that kind of freaked me out the way chapter 8 ended. So, you know how much I care about Liz. She's my favorite. So, yeah.
And you didn't even get any of Liz. It was all the bad guy.
It was all Michael and Max, fighting off the bad guys. So,
right.
Still got people coming in here for our recap. So, it's good. It gave us a chance to learn about them, but we still don't know what's in this briefcase.
We don't know what's in there yet.
It needs to be authenticated and to see if it's genuine. It must be something that's really pricey.
What do you think? What are your thoughts? Besides it being pricey. Well, let's think here for a moment. We know that guy worked for the government, right?
Yes.
He's a government guy. We know he's being shady and he's doing things. So
you think it has to do with alien records or something?
Mm,
classified information or like some kind of alien artifact?
ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding, 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 ding.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So he's selling secret alien technology that he's not supposed to have, and he's trying to get millions off because that guy he's been in trouble, and Joe has some dirt on him from stuff that he's done. That's bad. Besides
Oh.
that,
And Lockhart thought it was her uniform. It was his uniform. No. We just spoiled it. It's not her uniform.
but I mean, there's more to it than that. I'm not going to say anymore because you're going to read it. But it's clever. It's clever, and
Alien artifact. Technology. Alien technology.
well, that explains why they were in Roswell the day that Liz got shot. No, doesn't it? Yeah. Yep. We haven't gotten through his mind yet. Wait till Isabel does that. The green walk.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
You get to learn way too much about that guy. She didn't want to know that.
Does Liz meet Morton again?
He chases her. He almost kills her. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. All over an alien technology artifact thing? Like,
No,
I don't
he
see this.
recognizes who she is. Right now he doesn't know. But then he
No.
puts two and two together. That's that chick that got shot. And if she says anything, I'm in trouble.
Oh,
So
I got you.
he wants to, well, other things happen. I don't want to say too much, but other people
Like,
get killed. So there's murder coming. We got some murder coming. Um, so other things happen, and he knows that she knows about it, so he goes after her. And of course, Max can't have that. So then it's a chase.
yeah.
Well, we're not there yet. We will. It's nail biter. But good thing for that, it's like the last couple chapters, I think. So we'll be able to get through probably, hopefully, all of that.
Okay.
Yeah. It's hard though, having to wait. That's why I'm surprised you guys haven't gone and read it on your own
Reading ahead
first.
of time. No, I
Yeah.
got so much other stuff going on during the
Oh, I
week, and
know you
I've got
do.
so many things to edit, so many things to do. This is kind of like, I would rather just have like the first pure, like authentic reaction with you guys. I think it'd be more interesting. Be
Well,
more entertainment for you guys watching.
the best thing for me is when I read this, I read it by myself. Like I said, I locked myself in my room, and my husband doesn't care. So I was like, you know what happened in this book? So I literally had to like talk to myself about it. like I didn't. So it's really great that I finally have a bunch of people that I can talk to about this stuff without going crazy. And we can be like, oh, well, this happened. Did you notice this? Or it's really nice for me. And even though I already know, it's be the one to be like, I know something. It really is.
Does
So
anyone have any questions for me or Jess before it cuts us off in about a minute and a half? But I'm so glad you can lock yourself away in your bedroom and read books, Jess, and that you have a very understanding
me
husband
too.
who understands your Jason Bear thing.
You know what? We have this thing. That's what I love about him because I let him. He plays his video games. I have my Roswell stuff. And before I would just be like, whatever, be bored. But now I have something to do while he's doing his video games. Just my thing. Yeah. He don't have to know all the Jason Bear stuff. I'm cut off though. No more buying for a little while. We'll see how long that lasts.
Where are you putting Future Max?
Oh, right next to the one my signature, my signed
Right. Is it
picture of
on the
Jason.
wall?
Yeah. I have a wall on I moved my kids' pictures to the other wall. I put them on the family wall. Okay, there's a family wall. I moved them over there.
It's okay.
Okay. And I made that the Roswell wall because I don't have enough room. So now
All right.
so now I have all my Roswell stuff. I have my shelves and then my Roswell stuff hanging on the wall because I'm going to get a
We'll see you guys Friday because we're gonna get cut off. But we'll
yeah.
talk later. Bye.